July 4th, 1943, near the village of Gertsovka, Russia. Elements of the Gross Deutschland Panzer Grenadier Division have been ordered to conduct the reconnaissance in force prior to the start of the Kursk offensive and identify the positions of Russian front line. Opposing them is the strongly dug-in elements of the 71st Guards Rifle Division. Opening move scenario was supposed to have been the round 1 of the Valor and Victory Kursk DLC tournament. Unfortunately, my opponent for round 1 did not play. So this is the same scenario against one of my buddies, OldDog. All our objectives are on the east side of the battlefield, which is dominated by a hill. Soviets are entrenched in fortified positions, including an emplacement and trenches, with mines securing the front and barbed wire the flanks. Axes start on the west side in the orchards with a farmhouse in the center together with a wheat field. However, in order to advance to the Soviets, we would need to move through fairly open terrain and maximize what little features of cover there are. The orchard and craters in the center for the assault on the southern trench system, and a small hill just north of center for the approach to the northern trenches. Both north and south have forests that will be utilized to advance, and a wheat field in the south that we can utilize as our fire support group position to support the assault on the southern trenches. This is not going to be a cakewalk, and we will be shelled and shot all the way to the assault positions. But it isn't as bad as it might appear initially. In terms of forces, Soviets have 9 rifle sections and 1 rifle fire team commanded by a second lieutenant. In terms of equipment, they carry a Maxim heavy machine gun, 3 DP-28 light machine guns, known as проигрыватель or record player due to the way the magazine used to look. They also host a 5cm mortar and 2 guns. ZIS-2, which is 57mm, and ZIS-5, which is 75mm. Overall, we can say that Soviets have an understrength company. German forces consist of 18 Panzer Grenadier sections and 1 Panzer Grenadier fire team. This is being commanded by captain, or in German known as Hauptmann. Under him there are 3 Oberleutnants and 1 lieutenant. In terms of equipment, they have 5cm mortar, 8 MG-34 light machine guns, 9 grenades and 2 smoke. Overall, German strength is roughly a reinforced company strength. While the range of small arms and mortars is limited, and we would need to close in with the enemy, the ZIS guns have no such issues and will be shelling us as we advance towards Soviet positions. Their positioning also provides excellent field of fire, but it is not perfect and does have blind spots. We open up with advancing our units into the wheat field and moving a platoon to flank, plus getting the mortar section into a support platoon. Oberleutnant Meissner's platoon gets shelled and the section is pinned in the farm grounds, while the rest of the platoon moves on to occupy the farm itself. On turn 2, our forces keep advancing on the enemy. With Oberleutnant Meissner's platoon getting shelled again as they relink with previously pinned unit, but suffer no casualties. However, 2 sections trying to move under the cover of the northern forest come under an intense barrage which annihilates entire section. While these losses are not ideal, they are expected, and I have the men to soak up the attrition. We sustain more casualties on turn 3, with our push south losing a fire team. But these are fairly light losses, and I fear that our luck might change anytime now. My fears prove well-founded as the same formation loses a whole section, with only a single fire team remaining. However, Lieutenant Bismarck's men are finally in position to return fire, and they do so, reducing the Soviet rifle section to a fire team. We take fire from a number of positions, but the one that received commendations for taking out section and a half just previous turn strikes true again, taking out another fire team worth of men advancing in the center. I decide to move up another 2 sections with the intention of regrouping them into one platoon and pushing through the center to assault the southern trench system. Our southern fire support group, including mortars, gets into position to provide fire support to our assault element. More fire from the southern trench system and another fire team is gone. We must suppress that position or our assault element is going to get completely wiped out. We do that in our defensive fire phase, suppressing the ZIS-2 position and wipe out a fire team that was annihilating our assault element in the south. Up north, we get extremely lucky and wipe out the Maxim heavy machine gun position that was harassing our advance there. Unfortunately, I forgot to press record for that phase of it. The Soviets pushed a section with a light machine gun into the southern trench system, but our fire support group element lays down a volley of fire, reducing their number to just a fire team. Up north, the platoon led by Hauptmann Schramm destroys a section holding northern woods, allowing assault element led by Oberleutnant Grossberg move up through the orchard towards the forest that Soviets held a moment ago. Unfortunately, our assault element down south gets another fire team wiped out and pinned by ZIS 5 gun from the north. Overlapping arcs of fire for the ZIS guns are working really well for the Soviets here. By the end of the turn, there is only one section left to assault the southern trench system. We are doing much better up north and managed to destroy the ZIS 5 gun position. We open up turn 6 with wiping out the fire team supporting ZIS 2 position in the south. Up north, we get a bit overconfident and lose a section to a foolish move in the open by Hauptmann Schramm. We finally try to bolster our assault team by another section, but it gets pinned by light machine gun as it tries to move up and link up with the original assault section, which in turn suffers a direct hit by this 2-gun and costs lives of a fire team and pins the rest of the men. Up north, a fire team that is part of Oberlieutenant Grossberg gets pinned by the fire from a central forest. And down south, our original assault element gets completely wiped out. And fire support group under command of Lieutenant Bismarck loses a section from a direct hit by this 2-gun. Unfortunately, we fail to cause any casualties with our defensive fire. We open turn 7 with Oberlieutenant Meschner's platoon finally eliminating this 2-gun. And mortars under the direction of Oberlieutenant Hassel pin LMG team in the southern trenches. Hauptmann Schramm with his section eliminates the Soviet section in the central forest that cost them so many men. And down south, our new assault section puts up a smoke to screen its advance, but gets pinned when they get to the foot of the hill Soviets are entrenched at. And while Soviets both send mortar runs and small arms fire our way, they fail to cause any casualties. We, however, eliminate light machine gun fire team in the southern trenches and pin the only remaining survivor, 2nd Lieutenant Aralov, down. Our northern flank, in the meantime, peppers northern trench objective, costing Soviets a fire team there. Mortars continue shelling southern trenches, finally clearing them for our push towards the objectives. At the same time, Hauptmann Schramm's section clears the northern trench, while Oberlieutenant Grossberg's platoon moves to occupy it, getting eyes on the Soviet defenses up the hill. Keeping the momentum going, the assault move towards the last entrenched Soviets. We also occupy trenches down south, and our forward element moves out towards what seems to be an unoccupied Soviet trench, which also happens to be one of our objectives. Oberlieutenant Grossberg and his men move into assault positions and pepper the defenders with volley of fire, eliminating the section and only leaving mortars in the trench. Turn 9 starts with us pinning down the mortars and closing in to our final objective, and ends with complete elimination of the opponent's forces and taking all of the objectives. So what could we have done better? There were a number of times where we advanced in the open without first considering ranges and line of fire, and were punished for it most of the time. Assaulting entrenched and defended positions is extremely hazardous, and while having both an assault and a fire support group element work really well, This scenario gave us smoke to use. We have not utilized that in the best of fashions at all. I genuinely feel like a lot of pixel troopen lives could have been preserved this way. What could the opponent have done better? As we were approaching the positions, opponent have not shot at us every turn apart from some opportunity fire. When I queried with them why, they have said that the odds weren't great and so they didn't bother. That's a mistake, as bad odds can still yield results. Valor and victory is based on stacking the odds in your favor. A lot of times it could be simply through rolling dice enough times. They also have not reinforced the front line sufficiently enough, and most of my casualties were due to my mistakes rather than concentration of fire through bolstered numbers by my opponent. Defense in depth did not work well here simply because the rear trenches had no range to support the troops at the front, which allowed me to establish fire superiority and take apart Soviet forces piecemeal. Let me know if this has been entertaining and educational for you, and join me live for some more Valor and Victory every Monday at 1900 hours GMT time.